Mm. So thanks so much, and it's really lovely to be here and to see everyone and to connect with everyone from just looking at the notices coming up, and people are joining in from everywhere across the whole world. And thanks so much for being up at whatever time you're up at, or being up so early at whatever time you're up at. So just to be here. Mm. So if I remember back, there was a kind of pivotal moment in my journey which I didn't realize at the time, but I've come to realize afterwards that it was a pivotal moment. So it was the first time I went as a professional astronomer. We got time. I had 2 nights on the Gemini telescope up on Mauna Kea in Hawaii. And one of the perks of being an astronomer is you get sent around to go and visit certain telescopes, and then go up the mountain and spend some time doing your observations. So I turned up on Mauna Kea, and spectacular place, beautiful Hawaii, going up the mountain, and then so excited about having these 2 nights on the telescope. And you kind of drive up into the to the control center, and then you go out and into the control room, bright lights, banks of computers, lots of wires and things beeping. You get out your laptop and plug it in, and then you're off. I was off, and the next thing I knew, it was morning. And I went down, I went back up again the next night and plugged in, did all the observations, and then it was morning again. And I went down the mountain. I was very happy. I got all my observations. It was really exciting. And then must have been probably about 5 years later, I realized what I'd done, because my journey had taken me from burying myself completely in my work and in the research and in the basically the facts of what is in space and the physics and things. And then I'd come to realize that there was more to life than just the facts and the knowledge. And I started to look into who and what I was, and to shift the way I was being with things. And I realized that evening, or those 2 nights up on the Mauna Kea, I had not looked at the stars once. I'd not gone outside and looked up at the night sky, and I thought, I thought, God, what am I doing? This is the most spectacular night sky of the Northern Hemisphere, and yet I didn't even look up with my own eyes once. I was so caught up in what I was doing. So I've come to realize that that is a state of being that many people get into when they're really into the kind of the facts and the technology and the knowledge of things. So I've definitely been to amateur astronomy groups, known people where they'll go out into the night, they'd set up the telescope, they'd set up the camera, set up the laptop, and they'd spend the entire night staring at the laptop screen, twiddling with knobs and plugging in wires and things like that. And really the idea of stepping back and looking up and just appreciating and just enjoying, I suppose, the beauty of the night sky is lost. It's lost. And it's a huge shame. Mm. So if we rewind a little bit, when I was growing up, there were a few things that happened to me as a child and as a teenager that were very, very difficult. Some kind of traumas in the family, and people react to major traumas and abuse and things like that in different ways. Different people's bodies go in different directions to try and cope with things. My particular tendency was to kind of like disappear down a rabbit hole, like put my head in the sand, hold everyone at arm's length, and just forget I had any kind of emotion, or ignore it, really. That was my tendency. So when it came to the end of school and I was thinking about what to do at university, I was quite interested in astronomy and physics, and it made a lot of sense to go and study astrophysics. And yeah, okay, there was a lot of factors were exciting and drawing me towards it. But I've come to realize that one of the main reasons that I did this was to escape having to deal with my life at the time, having to sort of face what was going on. So I kind of ran away. I went to university, and I was all right at doing physics and maths and things like that. And you know, that gives you a certain sense of like, oh, I'm achieving something. You know, life's going well. I'm okay. And then after about, you know, few years at university, I I was struggling on the personal level. My relationships with people and friends and, you know, opposite sex just kind of wasn't really working very well. And I remember one time I was at home one holiday, and my mum said to me, you know, Mark, I think you need to do some psychotherapy. And I thought, wow, okay, I'll have a look into that. So I started to do some psychotherapy, and at the same time, I also met a meditation teacher, and I did a little bit of yoga, and I started to do some meditation, and I started to do the psychotherapy, which was bringing me right face to face with the kind of stuff that I'd been trying to escape. And well, my life started to shift in a very different direction. I started to realize what the effect was of being in that mind state where facts and figures and logic and reason was my only way of being. And I think maybe there's a part to play in the culture, I suppose, of doing science or science academic world, because in science, typically put logic and reason, linear thinking up on a pedestal. They hold it up and say this is the best or the right way of being, of doing things, of thinking. Like we go, this is the result, and we take the result and we think about what's the next step. And we think about, you know, certainly in maths, you know, you have to show you're working. What's the steps when you get to the result? All the steps down, very linear thinking. And it kind of worked well for me at the time. You know, I successfully managed to escape my life temporarily, and I successfully managed to, I mean, you could say it as being like disappearing to the furthest reaches of the universe, which is as far away as from my real life as I could get. Both in terms of studying astronomy, but also in terms of studying maths. I mean, it's just like it's the language of reason and linear thinking. So I got to this point where I was doing some psychotherapy, and I was doing these kind of embodied practices, yoga and meditation, and I was looking into myself and how I was. And I started to discover that there was this other side of myself that we all have that's much more a kind of integrative, intuitive way of thinking, more like about feeling and sensing and being rather than logic and um, reasoning out things. Yeah. So I mean, it was like a moment of, well, it was a few years of kind of discovery of this side of myself. Wow, there's this all this stuff that's going on inside me, which I can't label. I don't have a concept for. I can't really describe very well, but I can feel it. And I suppose after all those years, I've been pushing it down and ignoring it, and then here it is. Hmm. So I got to the point. I've been about as I previously said, I've been about 10 years doing academic research. I did a PhD and ended up doing a postdoc research position in a couple of places. I was living in Germany at the time, at the European Southern Observatory in Munich, and if you ever get a chance to visit, it's beautiful. Both the place in Munich and also the telescopes down in Chile, which we went to every now and again down on the Atacama Desert. There's some amazing memories. I mean, of all that kind of stuff, and even that time on Mauna Kea where I was up, it was so exciting, and it's so amazing to be at the telescopes there. But yeah, I got to that junction in my life where I realized that I had specialized in this linear thinking, And that kind of more intuitive feeling being mode was like, well, it was at the level of like a 10-year-old, I suppose. You know, my reason thinking mind was racing ahead, and this part of me had just not been developed. It just stopped developing. So I felt I needed to do something quite drastic for me and my life. So I decided to actually quit astronomy. It came up on me quite fast, actually, the decision. And I quit and I moved back to London. I moved in with my girlfriend at the time, which is now my wife. So it was a good decision. And I basically just quit astronomy altogether. And I had this feeling like it was just not where I wanted to be. So I just let astronomy disappear into the rearview mirror as I took up teaching yoga a bit more, teaching meditation. Yeah, it was quite a shift, you know, of change of pace. But it seemed what I needed to do at the time. And then it took me quite a few years to discover how the cold realm of maths and physics that I had escaped to could become a tool for actually helping us to connect with our daily life, with our life here on Earth. It took me a long time. I was, yeah, as I say, like astronomy was just disappearing into the rearview mirror, and people kept telling me, Mark, you need to find a way of bringing science and astrophysics and meditation and yoga together. And I was just like, oh, this seems like two separate worlds. I don't know how to do this. But yeah, like, oh, I was just trying to tinkering away, writing down a few ideas, and then I got an email from a publishing company here in the UK saying we've got a series of books called Mindful Thoughts. And we published a few mindful thoughts for gardeners and for walkers and for cyclists, you know, and for cooks and things. And we'd quite like to do one mindful thoughts for stargazers. And we've done a bit of research, and we think you'd be able to write this book. And I just started to think, wow, okay, if you put it like that, mindful thoughts for stargazers, and just kind of contemplating, yeah, I give that a go. I started to write a few things down and put some ideas together. And I just got to the end of writing that book, and it came out. Here it is, a little copy. If anyone's come across it. Um, and then this opportunity came up to go and live for 2 years on a little tiny island called Saint Helena. Saint Helena is a British overseas island. It's in the South Atlantic. Some of you might have come across. Um, there's a chain of 3 islands down the middle of the Atlantic. Um, uh, so Saint Helena is kind of just in the middle there. It's about 900 miles off the coast of Africa in the middle of the Atlantic. There's no other islands around, and my wife got a job, an opportunity to do a 2-year contract on the island. So we kind of decided to pack up and move out there, and it was the most amazing place for looking at the night sky. Um, I wasn't really I had very little expectations on that side of things, and there was a little nascent astronomy group, and they'd been going for a few years, but nothing too serious. But so I turned up on the island, and yeah, you could just go just down the road, and it's just perfect. No light pollution, dark sky. And then we moved to a different house, and I could walk out my back door and it just see the Milky Way in its all full glory. You know, so St. Helena was just south of the equator. So sometimes of the year we get the southern constellations come right up over the head. Just so deeply inspirational to be able to wake up in the middle of the night, walk outside, and boom, there it was. And I'd never lived in a place like that before. I do feel if you guys are lucky enough to be in that kind of place or have the opportunity to go and do that, it is special. And I think it's very sad because if you go back a few hundred years, everyone had that, and now we don't. So the work of the Dark Skies Association, you know, all that you guys do is so important. Mm. So it kind of reignited my passion for looking at the night sky, and looking at it with my own eyes. You know, I get the chair out and just go and sit out there and just look. And, you know, doing a degree in astrophysics teaches you about how a star works and how a galaxy evolves. It doesn't tell you anything about what the constellations are, or the myths and stories behind the constellations, or how to find, you know, a particular star. You go to the telescope in the control room, you type in the coordinates and you press go, and then it starts moving in the background and you don't know where it's pointing, you just assume it's up. So so I had to kind of like educate myself a bit around that side of things. And then we started to do a few events on the island, and people were connecting to it. And yeah, so things have been developing from there. So it's been a real journey in discovering, as I say, how this arena that I saw as an escape from everyday life has become a way to connect with our lives, as a way in rather than a way out. So I hope to be able to express or to show you a bit about how this works, or how I've found it to work. So I came up with this word, the mindful stargazing, and to me it means two things. So there's the nighttime aspect of it. So it's about immersing ourselves in the experience of being in the nighttime, not looking at the stars on your app or trying to figure out what constellation it is, or fiddling about with the wires with your telescope or pressing buttons or something. It's about being there in your own body and just diving into that experience. Some people do it very naturally, and I'm sure there are people here who, yeah, okay, I do it all the time. Yeah, I mean, it's great, great. Some people not so much, you know. And there's something there also about, maybe it's a rediscovery of the kind of beginner's mind magic that we experienced when we were a kid, and our parents took us out for the, maybe, I don't know, the first time, or when you're old enough to go up, stay up late enough, and you go outside and your parents shows you all this stuff, and it's just deeply beautiful. We come to this emotion called awe, and awe is a fascinating place to be. Awe has a sense of like there's something much bigger than us. We feel small in comparison. We feel kind of um, excited by that, but there's also a little tinge of, gosh, wow, like it's a bit scary. I mean, a little bit. There's a tinge of that to that emotion. It's when the mind stops chattering and we're not in this mode of thinking about it. We are experiencing it. And there's no words. There's no words. Like the real state of awe, there's no words for that. And I think the beauty of the night sky is also, you know, the twinkling, the arrangement of stars, the feeling of the breeze, the sounds of the night, all of that we can just let in and be there. You know, I just saw someone just posted up in the chat about putting a bivy bag up on a mountain ridge and watching the sun go down. I mean, that is a very special experience, isn't it? Mm. So then another aspect to mindful stargazing is the contemplating of our place within the universe. And this we can do, we don't need the night sky. We don't need to be looking up at the stars. We can basically do this anywhere, anytime. So, and we'll also do a little bit of this together in a minute, exploring our relationship to the universe and our are placed within all things, and it's kind of relevant to us in our daily life. I think probably most people go around thinking that the stars and the universe is pretty irrelevant to our lives here on Earth. And to some level it is. I mean, it doesn't really affect us very much, but it's deeply relevant on a much bigger scale to see us and how we are and where we come from and how we're connected to something much, much bigger. Yeah, and that can also take us to a place of awe, which helps us to quieten off the mind and into that place of just being. Yeah, so it's my hope that as I think somewhere on the advertising it said something about not looking up at the stars, but realizing we're in the stars. That's my hope. And we realize that actually we're made of the stars. Mm. So I wanted to read you a little bit from this book here, just a little tiny piece, because I think it can start us off in a contemplation. Um, so when we look up at the night sky full of stars, there's no other view in our human experience that we share with so many others backwards and forwards through time. All the landscapes, all the views on Earth have changed over the millennia since the beginning of humanity. I mean, how many millennia is that? Maybe 200 or 300,000 years since humans evolved and could look up. So every view on Earth over that time has changed. There's been volcanoes and glaciers and, earthquakes and all sorts of things. Erosion, sea level has gone up and down, all this changes. But the only view that has stayed the same, more or less, over 200,000 years has been the night sky. So let's just consider that for a moment. The stars have moved ever so slightly. I mean, if you look at but to all intents and purposes, the pattern of stars that we see in the night sky has stayed the same. So the very earliest hunter nomads would have looked up and seen that. People in ancient Egypt, ancient China, I don't know, the indigenous peoples of Australia and North America and across Europe, all the way up to the present moment, we can look up and see that same pattern. Okay, so people in the southern hemisphere see a slightly different pattern, but that pattern has stayed the same over the millennia. Hmm. So I think next time we go outside and you look up at the stars, it doesn't matter what you're looking at. You don't need to know what star it is. You don't need to know what constellation it is. You don't need to know how the stars are grouped. But that pattern of stars is what every human has ever seen. And that also counts going forwards. We can calculate the movements of the stars, and you say, well, in 100,000 years' time, the stars will have moved ever so slightly, but really it's the same pattern. So all of humanity, this is something very shared. It's something very connecting, between all of us, wherever we are, whenever we are. Hmm. So I'm going to invite you to do a little bit of meditation with me, and whether you've done a bit before or not to worry. First of all, if you're willing, then we'll just come into a comfortable posture in your body. So you don't even have to change anything. Just kind of notice how you're sitting or how you are, where you are, what's your posture. And maybe you want to just make yourself a little bit more upright or make yourself a bit more balanced. Or maybe you're good just where you are. And then if you feel okay, just lowering your eyes, looking down towards the space in front of you. Or if you feel okay, closing your eyes. So when we close our eyes, obviously we're cutting off one of our senses. It makes it easier for our attention to start going inside. We become aware of what's going on inside a bit more. So what is going on inside? How do you feel? There's no right or wrong, just noticing. Maybe you feel tired, or maybe you feel really awake. Maybe you feel warm or cool. Maybe you feel a bit agitated. Maybe the mind is really busy, lots of thoughts. Maybe you feel really spacious and calm, quiet. And so let's bring the attention and move it around the body a little bit. So we'll notice your head and your face, your eyes, and just see how it feels in your nose, in your jaw. What's going on? Your mouth. What can you feel? And then just allowing your awareness to move down through your body to your shoulders. You might sense a little bit of tension, or they might sense that the right side is different to the left. However it is for you, just noticing. And then moving your awareness down your back, between your shoulder blades, down to your lower back. And then moving down your arms, shoulders to elbows, down to your wrists, hands and fingers. Maybe your hands are touching something, maybe they're touching each other, or just noticing the sensations in your fingers. And then moving your awareness down the front of your body, chest, the ribs, your belly. So this is all about just being curious. How are you feeling? What do you feel? How is it right now? And yeah, okay, the mind wanders off. It may wander off a lot. We get distracted. We start thinking about something else. There's a sound comes in from outside or whatever. And yeah, we get distracted, but then we just come back. Noticing your hips and down your legs to your knees and down into your ankles, feet, toes. So we're going to carry on moving our awareness downwards, following the feeling of weight in your body. From your body, maybe underneath you is a chair or the floor. And then perhaps you're in a building. Through the structure of your building, just following downwards, extending your mind, your awareness down through the feeling of weight, which is basically the feeling of gravity. Gravity is that downwards feeling. We're going to go down through the building, finding the ground. So we follow our weight downwards. We find this feeling of gravity, and that takes us to the ground. And then we go down. Maybe it's earth, rocks, layers of water, more rocks. And then we find ourselves sensing the surface of our planet. We appreciate that our planet extends thousands and thousands of kilometers underneath us. thousands of kilometers in front, behind, left and right. Beneath your body, there's this enormous body of Earth. Now, we think of Earth as being a very fixed and sort of static, strong, solid kind of thing. But actually, the Earth is very dynamic. It's very energetic place. Lots of things happening. The Earth is spinning in space. It's orbiting our sun. And the whole sun and solar system is moving through the galaxy. This is a dynamic place we're on. We're moving. We're on the surface of this planet here. You're just sitting on the surface of this planet, moving through space. One of the nice things about having a dark sky with stars is that when we look up to them, you can get a sense of we're looking out.
Let's go. Let's come in here and lay down.
Whoop. So when you look up at the stars, this is where our planet is moving through. This is the journey our planet's on. You know, look up the stars. They're not out there. We're moving through them. So here we are, sitting on the surface of our planet. So I'd like to just bring our attention back into your body, just get a sense, how are you now? What's changed? How do you feel? Do you feel heavy or light? Do you feel more spacious or more concentrated? So I'd like you to just bring your attention into your mouth. I'm going to do something a little bit weird, something we don't do very often in public, is just to sense the saliva in your mouth. Maybe just, we've all got our eyes lowered or closed and all got our cameras off maybe anyway. So just move your tongue around inside your mouth and just get a sense for the saliva in your mouth. Now, saliva is part of the water component of our body. We know our body is maybe 3/4 water, 70% made of water. And water is a molecule, one oxygen atom with two hydrogen atoms, H2O. So the hydrogen that makes up the water that you can feel with your tongue as you swish it around inside your mouth, that hydrogen was made in the first few seconds after the Big Bang. The universe cooled very fast and it allowed particles to solidify. It's like little energetic particles to solidify out of this sea of energy, and boom, came a proton and an electron. And quickly, the proton and electron bound together, and you get vast amounts of hydrogen being produced. And all that hydrogen has been floating around in space, and then finally made it into our solar system, into our planet, and is now in your mouth. You can feel it with your tongue. Part of your body is literally as old as the universe. So just to notice while we're here in the mouth, I'd like you to just move your tongue around your teeth and just see if you can sense the shape of your teeth. Very familiar, isn't it? With your tongue, shape of your teeth, but we can also appreciate just how hard they are. The surface of your teeth is coated in what we call enamel. And that enamel is a calcium phosphate. So that's calcium, phosphor, and oxygen bound together as a molecule, calcium phosphate. So let's see if we can consider where these elements come from that make up your teeth. So we have the universe began, Big Bang, lots of hydrogen, and then a few 100,000 years later come the first stars. And those stars burn very fast and quick and start to produce. So a star is a factory for creating heavier elements. So it takes hydrogen, fuses it together and forms helium. And in doing so, it releases energy. But it also produces very trace amounts of other elements as well, a little bit of carbon and nitrogen. Like a star like our sun is producing small amounts of carbon, nitrogen, a little bit of oxygen as it's living its life. And it comes to the end of its life and the material is returned back to the universe. If it's a big enough star, it'll explode in a supernova. Very, very energetic. Some of the most energetic events in the universe. And in that energy of the supernova, there's enough squeeze and heat to be able to start to create elements beyond. So carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, a little bit of sulfur, silicon, aluminium, magnesium, potassium, copper, all those elements that we know about. They were made inside a supernova. So boom goes a supernova, and all this stuff is blown out into space and floats around for a few million years. It gets incorporated into a new gas cloud, and that gas cloud collapses and forms a new star, incorporating all that stuff. And then that happens a few times, and then one day our sun was made, and along came all the planets as well. And some of that copper and magnesium and iron and all those elements got incorporated into our planet. And then here today, you were born, you eat the food, stuff comes from our earth, gets absorbed into your body, and then finds its way making your teeth, which we can just run your tongue around and go, ah, this calcium and phosphor and oxygen that I can feel with my tongue, that was made inside a supernova. There was no other way. Your teeth are made of supernova dust. Along goes with a lot of the rest of the body as well, and everything around us, as the table and the computer screen and all sorts of things. So let's just spend a couple of moments allowing that to sit, to just percolate down through your body. So I'm going to be quiet for a little bit. So how's our opportunity to let this just be? We're sitting here on our surface of our planet, held by gravity, our planet moving through space. Our planet is made of material, chemicals, and our bodies are made of the same stuff that was once created inside a star, back through generations and generations of stars, way back to the beginning of the universe. We could not exist without all of this happening. How does that feel? So perhaps you'd like to take a deeper breath, breathe in the oxygen which came from a supernova, and let your eyes lift up. It's wonderful to share a few moments with you like this. We've got 162 people joining in right now, contemplating our place and our relationship to the universe, and coming into this place of being the universe. We are the universe existing right now, being the universe, rather than just thinking about it or anything else like that. So that's kind of like where my journey has been taking me, you know. I'm sure there's more to come, you know, and I would love to hear some feedback or questions, or you know, because out of that and out of this kind of relationship that we can have with each other now, it comes new stuff and new perspectives, and different people's perspectives. Always great to hear. So thank you for listening and being here, and let's see if there's any points or reflections or questions.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. That was beautiful, and I feel so relaxed, and I know that there are a lot of lovely thanks and comments here in the chat. I just want to read a couple that I have here from Patrick. His comment was, "This right now is what our effort is all about. We are losing connections to ourselves at a rapid rate, and the night sky, the cosmos above, and the stories surrounding it should be one of the easiest connections to restore. And we need connections between all of us right now more than ever." And I thought that was a really lovely comment from Patrick. Another one from Paul. "Hello from Cotswolds, UK. I've struggled with PTSD from active army service. The cosmos has helped me realize my place in the universe." So some pretty poignant and beautiful comments from people in the chat. And I'll just share like my reflection kind of when you asked like, how does this make you feel? It was like I almost kind of like wanted to start tearing up because it makes me feel like I'm supposed to be here, you know, like I'm really a part of something. I'm a part of this huge chain reaction, this huge universe. You know, we're not just one small infinite speck of dust. We are like an integral piece and a cog in this whole.
A lot of people say to me, "Oh, all doing this makes me feel so tiny, like I'm so insignificant and all." But actually, you got it there. We're
Yeah.
not tiny and insignificant. We're absolutely integral part of this ongoing evolution.
Yeah, so that was really beautiful. And I do practice meditation, and I've never really thought about it in a way that's kind of connected it to stargazing and the work that we do here at Dark Sky. So yeah, I really enjoyed your meditation, and thank you for
Mm.
sharing that with us.
Mm. Just
So
while you're looking now, just Dominic's just reminding me, I've been working a little bit the last few months with the International Astronomical Union. Has the Office for Astronomy for Development, which is a branch of the IAU, which is all about using astronomy for helping economic and social development across the world. And as part of that, we've just done a little project where we've recorded 6 mindful stargazing meditations, which are now out and available for free. So I wonder if Dominic, if you've got a link there somewhere, I haven't got it straight away right here, but I'm going to stick up a link at some point.
great. Yeah, and I know Chris has shared a link to your website.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if people want to learn more or get in touch or get your book, I want your book. That looks like an adorable book. I will be ordering that. Is all of that available on your website?
Yep, that's it.
Great. Okay, we have a question here from both of the questions in the Q&A box are from a Jim. I'm going to start with Jim Gasser here, who says, "Do you have any simple suggestions as to what I can do for focus and mindfulness during the astronomy outreach programs I conduct? Most 10 to 15 people with only a few minutes, dark skies, 8 or 12-inch telescopes, but I want a few minutes of meditation."
What a lovely thing to consider offering and including in what we do. Yeah. So I would recommend starting with your eyes closed. I mean, it always seems very weird. We come to do stargazing and it's all about looking, gazing and things, but actually gazing can happen in different ways. So closing the eyes and just kind of like sensing into our environment. So opening to the sense of hearing, listening to all the sounds, because I think we can get very we ignore the fact that there's a wind, rustling in the leaves, and there's a little badger, or there's the cars going past and the air. We can all just tune into that, listening, and then smelling, and then kind of just feeling what it's like to begin with in that space. So just opening up the different senses, and then we can open the eyes, and then it's not about what we're looking at, but just looking. I say to fix your eyes on one star and then just become aware of your periphery, because we know that when the body becomes aware of the periphery, it actually sends us into a parasympathetic response, which is a relaxing response. When we're stressed, it's all about narrowing in. When we feel relaxed, it's all about opening up. So then tuning into the periphery and the whole of our view, and then just then you can integrate it all: listening, smelling, looking, feeling, and then it's going to be just 1 minute.
Great. Yeah, I like it is kind of counterintuitive to think of closing your eyes when you're going to a stargazing event, but usually going against the stream, right, is kind of the way to learn and break new ground. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Thank you for sharing that idea. Jim asks, and then I think we kind of had a similar question on Facebook as well. There's a couple questions about smart telescopes. And I guess, do you have any suggestions on integrating mindfulness and enhancing experiences around mindfulness while utilizing, those smart telescopes that kind of show you those deep sky objects very quickly and easily?
Well, I think, well, two things are coming up. So in every session where you're out there using a telescope, make sure you don't do what I did and don't ever look up with your eyes, with your own eyes. Like, take a moment, just walk away from the telescope and just look up. Maybe get out your deck chair, whatever, and just look up, and then go back. And then the other thing that just occurred to me, there was a very good friend of mine who we were doing some meditation sessions over the Zoom, and she was saying, instead of looking at the screen, imagine that you're looking through the screen to the other person. And it's a very subtle and slight change of the way that we are observing. Like, I'm looking through the screen, I feel your presence, or all of our presence here in here. So I wonder if we could perhaps do that with our telescope as well. Instead of thinking of this as a lens with a picture on it, with an image that's just appearing, we could think about we're looking through that to what, it's not out there, it's actually, we're in it. We're in it. We're just looking at parts of ourselves in a sense. So I wonder if that might make a difference.
I love that. And that actually kind of just helps Zoom calls as well. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Mm.
Tom Reinert, our board president, is on the call, and he asks, in addition to your books, whom do you like to read on mindfulness and the universe?
Gosh, yes, there's some great books out there, isn't it? Now I'm on the spot. Can I remember some names? What's his name? Brian Swim. Brian Swim's got some great stuff. Written some beautiful books about contemplating the universe. I'm just in the middle of a book. Gosh, what was his name? I think there's a book by Deepak Chopra about you in the universe, or your universe, or something like that. That I've just been reading. It's a beautiful book. Yeah, there's not so much. There's a few people writing on it here and there.
Nice. Yeah, well, it's a very cool niche, and I am glad that you've kind of taken up this space. It seems like we definitely need more people out there connecting these two fields. There's another question, I think, from Facebook here. Somebody's asking about a body scan, that they've always kind of done the body scan from the feet up. and found it interesting to go from the top down. Do you have any thoughts on the two different directions?
Oh yeah. So that's right. So people from the sort of more mindfulness-based stress reduction side of things, there's a typically do it feet up, and then in the Zen. So I'm from the Zen school. I did my studies in Zen and things that typically go head down. I don't think it makes that much difference. I quite like the head down because it leads us down to gravity, and we just keep on going down. We find the planet Earth. So what we did. Whereas if you, it doesn't really work so well going the other way around. That's just, I think it's just a preference thing.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, those are all the questions in the Q&A. I guess I find myself too when I do astrophotography and I can't relax until I have all my cameras like set up taking time lapses, and then I feel like I can look up. But I guess what I'm taking from this is I feel like maybe even the photos that I take will have a different story to tell if I just take that moment before being frantic and trying to get the shot and really feeling and understanding what how the night sky is speaking to me or what it's showing to me, and then taking that time to set up after that. So that's what I've taken from this today.
It's a fascinating area to look at in ourselves. I think that's a really important point actually, because I wonder what it would be like to go out on a beautiful crystal clear night and not take your cameras.
Ugh, it would be so painful.
So what is it? What is it about it that's painful? Because we
Yeah,
have this sense,
singing,
it's so rare. We've got to capture it. That
uh-huh.
kind of, that we live in a world where we have to
Yeah.
capture everything all the time. If we
Yeah.
feel like we haven't captured it on our phone, then it doesn't actually exist.
Yeah.
And I think taking photographs is so important because it helps to show the beauty of the things. But every now and again we could try just for ourselves, doing it differently and just being with it.
Yeah. That's something I will be working on for sure.
There's quite a bit more there, in terms of what we can do around mindful stargazing and exploring our place within the universe. I really like to do when we have a bit more time and we spend, maybe over a retreat or something like that. We can go quite deeply into that being mode and that sort of immersion and bringing the inside and the outside more together. So I do longer events and retreats abroad in Europe and things like that. Where we include a bit of movement practice and meditation. So if anyone's interested, do look it up.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested. I feel like maybe our next staff retreat, we should do an actual retreat with Mark.
Yeah.
That would bring us together, I think, like nothing would. So I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping us up. Be sure to catch our interview with Mark in our Nightscape quarterly magazine it's being mailed out to DarkSky members right now. If you don't want to miss the next Nightscape, join DarkSky, support us as a member, and you will get that in the mail. It's a lovely magazine, and I'm so grateful, Mark. This was one of my favorite Night Matters meetings ever, actually. I truly enjoyed it so much. Your presence is lovely. Thank you for your generosity and your time today, and for bridging the gap between mindfulness and stargazing and creating this important connection between all of us here today and between us and the night sky. And may this practice be for the benefit of all living beings.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you have any last words to share, Mark?
Well, I mean, that's it. Just kind of bringing to mind what it might be to be rather than to think or to do. Next time you're out under the sky, just 30 seconds, just to kind of be in that space.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Mark. And we will see you all next month. Bye-bye.